But when they do something to our folks, are you willing to stand beside at least always one crazy Negro preaching in a town? Are you willing to stand behind, as a white brother or sister, are you willing to stand next to that crazy preacher and say they shouldn't have shot that boy? Right? It's about showing up. Because at least in my understanding of the gospel, and it might have something to do with my own existentialist tendencies and blues sensibilities, one of my grandfathers used to play the piano for B.B. King. And the other grandfather, a preacher. That ought to tell you a lot about me. And it might be my own blues sensibilities, right? But it has to do with picking up your cross and standing. I know the woman has got a strong critique on the redemptive narrative. I understand that. I'm not talking about women being long-suffering under forms of arbitrary violence as rendered in the context of domestic living. I'm talking about sacrifice, taking risk, giving something up, and that being the premium. And so I think that becomes the question. One last one, I promise. Give me one right here. One else. Give me this last one. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello.
My question pertains to your theme around resurrection and death. More specifically around the talk and crisis language surrounding the death of the Black church currently. First of all, I'm understanding that it's a conflation of a lot of different things.
Yes.
First of all. And so my first question is, what is it that you think is dead? How is it dead? And who is it dead for?
So look, excuse me, Sister Summers. So I'm going to try to respond, and we'll talk about it at the reception. There is a reception. Right? Okay. So one, I didn't. I'm Pentecostal. It usually take me about an hour to get warmed up. So part of it, one has to do with that we live in a moment where liberal and left religion is alienated in a way that we've never seen before. Case in point, Jeremiah Wright, Obama. So there's been a thorough trashing of liberal and leftist discourse in the public sphere. The mere fact that Glenn Beck is calling Jim Wallace a socialist renders that question. Jim wrong, I love him like a stepbrother. He wrong on women, wrong on queers. All right? And a whole bunch of other stuff. But so thorough trashing of liberal left discourse, right? So there's even no space. King couldn't get no media time now. So that's one. There's no social movement in place to push the church. Because the church historically shows up late. I hear Dr. Cohn saying, say cool, the church shows up late. Right? So the church historically has been pushed to make social movement. It didn't just sit around and be like, we're going to take the leadership on this thing. It was pushed. So there's no social movement in place because there's been a balkanization of the American left. So when you look at thorough discrediting of liberal religion, the lack of a authentic social movement to hold us accountable and move us forward. And it is dead for a lot of young people. Just completely. I tell my congregation all the time, I pastor a whole nother church of artists and activists who ain't going to nobody's church. I do their weddings, I bury their mamas, but they're not coming in. They're coming because they've been so damaged by the space. And so I think that's part of it, that for many young people, it is completely dead. And the other is the challenge, the same problem. You can almost do one for one in hip hop, right? You got 50 and Creflo Dollar, who share the same theology, but that's all you get on TV. That's all you get on the radio. Versus more conscious forms of hip hop, more conscious forms of. I'm never gonna get a show on the Word Network. Thank you. Thank you.
I knew the Q&A and I know his style. He responds to a question 30. It takes him a long time to get, but it has been a real critical exchange and good exchange that will continue in the reception. Now I have the challenge of bringing and introducing to you Martha Simmons, who's also long-winded. But she is the brainchild of the African American Lectionary. She's the brainchild. And in the summer of 2007, I received a call from her about this possible partnership between the Keller Mills Smith Institute and Hope for International Life in the African American Pulpit. And I immediately knew that it was something that needed to occur, and I'm glad that it did occur. So I'm going to ask her to come and welcome her to this collaborative, this summation of our 3 years of work. We have a reception that is already supposed to have begun to make sure we are on schedule for the next production, the play. But let Martha come and let us greet her and thank her for her contribution to the African American Church.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be with you. I was delayed by a plane that just sat on the tarmac for 40 minutes. They didn't say what was what. We just kept sitting there. But God be praised, whenever you can go up and come back down, you had a good flight. That's what they would say. I'm from Chula, Mississippi.
My Lord.
That's what they would say in Chula. I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Harris, and most importantly to thank Reverend Sekou for a magnificent word. And at this time, just before we get ready to go to the reception, all of the logistic folk who helped pull this off, will you stand? Some are outside, some are in here. Amen. Lisa, most of them are manning the tables. I want to thank them for everything that they have done to bring us to this moment. And I have had a wonderful time just bringing forth a lectionary that I hope and believe represents us. I hope you'll get a chance to watch bits and pieces of the lectionary project. What you have on this screen are all of the dates for 3 years. For the whole 3 years, it's shown through these images, and there's also video that, of course, there are also songs and music that couldn't play while we're up here. I'm going to keep it short. Let's go to the reception. Thank you all for coming.